Mr. Chairman and members, that's the constitutional amendment that allows, as I explained in open earlier testimony, that allows the Bessie to fund the school district with dollars. It would place as a vote of the entire state. Should this legislation come out, the whole state will vote on this proposal.
We have a motion by Senator Donahue to move favorable. Do we have any objection? Wait, Senator Clater has a question.
Really more of a comment. I want to visit with you about the language on the ballot at some point on that. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion by Senator Donahue. Any objection to the motion? No objection. The motion carries.
Senator White now will move suspension of rules reference calling from the calendar advance to Senate bills on third reading final passage. Call from the calendar Senate Bill number 299 by Senator White.
That is the constitutional amendment companion bill, Mr.
Yes.
Secretary. And any objection to allowing the gentleman to call that bill? Not objection, so ordered. Senator White.
It's a Senate Bill number 299. Senator White is a resolution to amend the Constitution to provide for certain effects and purposes of Southeast Baton Rouge Community School System and East Baton Rouge Parish.
All right. Senator
Members,
White.
this is the accompanying legislation. You have to put this school district into the Constitution for Bessie to pay their MFP dollars. It'll be named along with all the other 70 school districts in the state of Louisiana. That's all it does. Your constituents will be able to vote on it. Mine will be able to vote on it. It has to pass statewide, and it has to pass in East Baton Rouge Parish to take effect. And that's all this bill does. Thank you.
All right, so you have a question to Senator Murray?
I couldn't put my hands on the bill real quick. What date is the election going to be?
I wrote it right here for you, CB's friend. November 6th. Same date as the presidential.
All right, Sim. Any other questions? Any amendments, Mr. Secretary?
No.
Senator White, you have a right to close. Gentleman waives closing and moves final passage. When machines are open, those in favor will vote yes. Those opposed, no. Mr. Secretary, open the machines, please. Vote your machines, please. Vote your machines. Are you through voting? You through voting? All right, close them up, please. 29 yeas, 7 nays. Bill finally passes. Reconsiderable bill finally passes. The motion on the table. Objections? So ordered.
Thank you, members.
Senator White.
And it's just like I explained. This is the constitutional amendment. This is the enabling legislation. This tells Bessie to put this district in with the other parish, city, and community districts in the state of Louisiana and pay them their MFP and allow them to do their property tax. That's all it does.
Okay. Is there any? Okay, Representative Smith for a question.
If the constitutional amendment does not pass, the other enabling legislation fails as well.
There's no funding, Pat. There's no funding, so it doesn't enact.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Representative Edwards for a question.
Thank you. In addition to that, Senator White, I believe that the language for the effective date of the act also requires passage. So I mean, it's linked. This would never become effective if it doesn't pass.
Right. That's the statewide vote. I mean, people in Tangipahoa admit they're going to vote on it in Richland.
Right. And my question goes primarily to the ballot language, and I asked staff to pull me some language that was used previously, and I think it was used for Central, and the ballot language is very similar, but my question is about whether there's confusion and with the ballot language, and I'll just ask it this way. The ballot language asks whether the voter supports an amendment to grant the Southeast Baton Rouge Community School System in East Baton Rouge the same authority as parishes. Well, that school system doesn't exist at the time they're asked to vote on it. And so the voter's going to think, well, we've got this school system out there that's not being treated fair. It's not asking, do you support a breakaway? Do you support a new district to be carved out of the East Baton Rouge School District? It's asking whether you support giving a school district the same authority as other school districts have. And I suggest to you that that is misleading as to what we're asking the voter to approve with the constitutional amendment. And I'm just asking if you've got any thoughts about that.
It's got to go to civil law when it leaves here. Before
I sit on that committee, but we don't typically change ballot language very often. But this is one that I will be giving a lot of thought to, because I'm not sure that we're fairly putting the voter on notice of what we're really doing here, because they could logically conclude that this school system already exists, it's just not being treated the same, and why would we do that? And
Work on clarifying language before it gets to civil law.
Well, and I'll look at some things. I'm not prepared to do it here, but I would. That is the one thing that we review it for in civil law. And it was just suggested that you could put the word proposed before Southeast, and let people know that this is not an existing school district that is just for whatever reason not being funded the same.
I don't have any problem if you want me to do that now.
Yeah, we'll worry about it
Even though
later.
you didn't vote for my bill.
I did not. Thank you.
Okay, Representative Smith, did you have another question?
This does not have to go to appropriations. It did go to Senate Finance.
If it does, Representative Smith, when it's read into the record upstairs, when it came out of committee, they'll make that determination then.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I guess before the last vote, they had a number of people who have put cards in and want to speak. Hopefully, they do not want to speak. I'm going to read them out, though, for the record, unless I can do it.
We vote on this constitutional amendment first.
Well, I got a lot of people I got to ask and make sure they don't want to speak.
On the constitutional amendment?
Yeah, a ton. So I'll just ask this, in support, is there any individual who wants to speak? Or I know I had Mr. Romer and Mr. Wade. Y'all wave? Okay. And I'll read the rest of them in after we do this. And then in opposition, who want to speak? Is anybody in opposition who wants to speak? I had an awful lot of cards. There is one? Okay. If anybody else, I can read them out if you want to. Again, we're going to have to leave here at 2:30. So if anybody wants to speak.
Can we get up?
No, sir. You stay right here.
Okay.
I would not be able to sleep tonight if I made it easy for
again,
y'all to disenfranchise the children.
Please
in this
introduce
community.
yourself again. Just
Des Moines D. Rutledge, General Counsel, East Baton Rouge Parish School System. And as to the constitutional amendment, I think many of the wrap-up points that Senator White made merit some additional amplification. Knowing where the votes are, it's very easy to say this is not about money when the existing East Baton Rouge Parish school system is going to be bankrupt as a result of this. It's very easy to say that. It's very easy to say it's not about the number of kids. Well, it is about children at the end of the day, especially those children who are not going to get in a lifeboat off the Titanic. And that is what is happening. You are going to the peril of 85% of the children in this community, create a system that is geographically compact, racially identifiable, and distinctly poor to appease 15% in America, in the land of opportunity, where the Statue of Liberty cries, "Bring me your poor, tired, and humble masses yearning to be free." Where is that for these children? Where is that for these children? Where is that for the children who are going to remain? This bill, this legislation does not address at all the impact financially that it's going to have, the impact racially that it's going to have, Mr. Chairman,
Look at Recovery School District.
geographically, and the future of this community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir.
I'll be happy to entertain any questions if there are any.
There are no questions. Okay. What I'm going to do is we'll go ahead and vote on this, and I'm going to read in, unless I have to read them in ahead of time. I mean, it's going to take me a few minutes to read them all in. Can I do that? Be good to read them in. Bear with me for a second. Those of you who are in favor but would like to speak but have waived: Michael Wade, Chaz Romer, Roy Hildebrand. Kevin Hayes is in support would not like to speak. Gina Goins is in support would not like to speak. Carolyn Pittman in support would not like to speak. Bessie Barnes in support would not like to speak. Joshua Hoffmeyer in support would not like to speak. Jesse McCormick in support would not like to speak. Denny Walton in support would not like to speak. Glenn Conquay is in support would not like to speak. Stephanie Palmera is in support would not like to speak. And Joan Hunt is in support and would not like to speak. In opposition, who would like to speak: Gary Reed, waves. Laura Fernandez, Des Moines Rutledge, who did speak. Cheryl Lott, Tanya Nyman, James or Bob Dora, Cornell Washington, Carlos Sam, Representative Ted James, Avina Rambala, Connie Bernard, Evelyn Ware Jackson, Adam Knapp, Christina Dorsa, Lane Wallace, and Barbara Freiberg. Also in support but would not like to speak is Carolyn Watson, Matt Fry, and Lori Fry. In opposition but do not want to speak is Paulette Bailey Wilson, Melinda Davis, Kathy Wascom, Amber Moran, Ann Wagenet, Monique Monero, Terry Parcell, Barbara Dodds, Dorothy Young, Eureka Gaston, Mary Patricia Ray, Heather Sewell Day, Kiko Taramama, Emily Blosser, Jason Day, Connie Bernard, Leslie DeFleece, Maggie Cromer, Hannah Wellmans, Kelly Kent, Anthony Dopsa, Representative Regina Barra, Laura Gautreaux, Wesley Kelly, Heather Sewell Day, and Emily Kelly. All are in opposition but do not want to speak. Okay, Senator White, you may close on your bill.
Thank you, members. As I've said before, this piece of legislation right here is a constitutional amendment. The bill that we passed before means nothing if this doesn't pass statewide and in this parish. And I ask for your support. This will be something that you can at least say education, and everybody in your district has a question, you can say they can vote on it. And with that, I'll close. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Senator White has closed on Senate Bill 299. Is there a motion by someone here? Representative Carmody moves to report Senate Bill number 299 favorably. Representative Smith objects. So I'll ask Ms. Snowden to please call the roll.
Representative Bishop? Votes no. Representative Broadwater? Yes. Representative Burns? Yes. Representative Carmody? Yes. Representative Champagne? Yes. Representative Edwards? No. Representative Henry? Yes. Representative Hollis? Yes. Representative Jefferson? No. Representative Landry? Yes. Representative Price? No. Representative Richard? Yes. Representative Schroeder? Yes. Representative Shadwin? Yes. Representative Smith? No. Representative Thompson? Yes. Representative Williams? No. Representative Carter?
Yes.
Yes.
Members, thank y'all very much.
Passes 12-6.
The bill passes 12-6.
All right, members, we're going to take up Senator White's constitutional amendment, which is Senate Bill 299. In your folder, members, is our committee report, the 6.8A report, which indicates that this has to be done by constitutional amendment. Senator White, on your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. What this is a constitutional amendment that authorizes the payment of a new school district if it's created. All the school districts in the state of Louisiana are in the Constitution. and it authorizes Bessie to pay them, Department of Education. So all it does is authorize the payment should that local bill pass, which is bill number 563, which creates the district, and then this constitutional amendment will go to a statewide vote on November the 6th in the fall ballot. And if it passes 2/3 off the House and goes to statewide vote, it has to pass statewide and in East Baton Rouge Parish.
Okay. I have no questions, Senator White. I do have cards in support, although do not wish to speak, from Darrell Kuhan, Capital Partners, and Jesse McCormick, representing Capital Partners. Representative Williams, you have a question for Senator White?
Yes.
Okay. Representative Williams.
Senator White, on this Constitution Amendment, the ballot language on, let me see. Page 215, it says, well, I'll start with really line 11, section 3. Be it further resolved that on the official ballot to be used in said election, these shall be printed in proportion upon the electors of the state shall permitted to vote yes or no to amend the Constitution, which proposition shall read as follows. Do you support an amendment to grant the South Baton Rouge Community School System and East Baton Rouge Parish the same authority granted for the purpose of Article 8, Section 13 of the Constitution of Louisiana? Reading the way that the ballot language, we're making an assumption already that it has passed on the floor, the creation of the district. Am I right?
It would have passed on the floor before you can vote on it.
Okay. And
it has to pass by 2/3, actually, Representative Williams.
Okay. And so is this the proper time to bring it before us when it has not been before the floor yet?
I think so. I didn't refer it. I think Butch referred it, and it's customarily this is how it's been done before.
So we're doing it custom. Let me ask you, since we're talking about creating the new South Baton Rouge Community School District, wouldn't the proper language... Southeast, I'm sorry. Southeast Baton Rouge Community School System. Wouldn't the proper language before the voters, wouldn't it be better to say, do you support the creation of the South Baton Rouge Community School System, granting it the same authority?
I don't think they're supporting the creation. They're supporting whether to fund it or not, just like the other 70 districts.
But shouldn't the voters have an opportunity, since they're voting on the funding, shouldn't the same voters have the opportunity to vote on the creation of the district also?
I don't think that's how the Constitution's set up. The Constitution's set up, if you're going to amend it, the legislature holds that authority whether to pass that local bill and that state constitution to grant that authority. The only authority you're asking the people is, are they going to put it with the same posture of the rest of the school districts in the state and fund it?
And I respect that. I know that's what the Constitution says. But I'm asking you, shouldn't the voters have the same opportunity?
They're going to have an opportunity to fund it or not.
To fund it, but not to create it.
If you don't fund it, it don't create.
Okay.
They're going to, in essence, they're having the vote.
Okay. So why not?
If they don't fund,
in effect, then,
if they don't fund it, it doesn't get created. You can't levy your taxes, and the state can't give them the MFP, so you have no money to operate. So if the constitutional amendment fails, then it fails. You don't have a district without money.
But you understand how voters work. Most voters are going to look at this, and they're going to think that the district is already created, so we don't have any choice. So would you object to an amendment being added that says that language?
It says what language?
That says, do you support the creation of the South Baton Rouge Community School System?
I would have to, because I think this body holds that authority to create it or not. It's not the people. They vote whether to fund it or not. Okay, that's their choice whether to fund it or let them be one of the districts, one of the 70 districts in the state, or 71.
Then you would object to that amendment?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You have any further questions, Representative Williams?
I don't have any other question, but I do have that amendment that I'm going to offer.
We'll take up that amendment shortly. Representative Seabaugh.
Just to follow up on Representative Williams' line of questioning about the creation versus the funding. Now, just to clarify, how is a district created?
It's created by drawing a piece of legislation on a local bill, and you set out the boundaries and you call for everything in the district, and that local bill goes before this body and it has to pass by a majority. The district also, to fund it, that's the creation of the district, is the local bill, which is number 563.
And that's a completely separate piece of legislation than the one we're considering,
It takes two pieces of legislation. It takes a local bill that calls for the district, the creation of the district, and then it takes a constitutional amendment to fund the district. You have to have the funding. All the districts are in the Constitution, so that's the only reason you have to have a constitutional amendment, is to fund it. It's
So
not
the
to create it.
creation of the district is something the legislature does, the governor signs, and it's done. It's created.
Right.
The only reason the constitutional amendment that you're bringing today is necessary is to secure the funding for the district, correct?
That's right.
So
So give
the
the people a choice if they want to do it or not.
So the people don't actually get a choice as to whether to create it. It's created by this body.
By the legislature.
So
It's a
the-
legislative function.
So on that basis, I would object to any amendment that put the creation language in the constitutional amendment, because that is improper, because the vote is not to create it. The vote is to fund it, correct?
That's correct.
All right.
All right. Thank you, Representative Seabaugh. Representative Harner, you have questions for Senator White?
I just want another, thank you, Chairman. I just need another explanation. Y'all kind of got the split in hair. Senator, if you could explain that to me again, the creation versus funding and things of that nature.
The creation of the district is with a local bill. It affects a local area. It affected East Baton Rouge Parish. So that's why we have a local bill number 563. That bill is in the process of working through. If that bill fails, then the district is not created. But this constitutional amendment is just for the funding of that district. If that bill 563 passes the bodies of the Senate and the House by a majority and creates a new district, then to create the new district, all the districts are in the Constitution. And that's why we have to have this instrument to let the people of the state change the Constitution, just like you did on the gun bill a while ago. You have to change the Constitution, and we have to put another district in there to tell it to give them authority to levy their property taxes and to receive their MFP dollars.
So let me ask this. If 563 fails but 299 passes, what's the process?
It's dead. If you can't get, in practicality, if you can't get a majority in this body to create the district, do you think you'd get 2/3 to pass the constitutional amendment?
So maybe to help Representative Hunter, if your enabling legislation, whatever the number is, fails, are you going to continue with the constitutional amendment?
No.
Okay.
I mean, you got to pass it. You got to create the district to fund it. I mean, you're going to tell it to fund a district that doesn't exist because the local bill didn't pass.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Hunter. No further questions. Senator White, if I could ask you to yield the table. We have some cards in opposition, and I'm going to ask the opponents to please limit their comments to the purpose of what this committee is reviewing the bill for, which is whether this has to be done by constitutional amendment versus by statute, because our job is to consider that as and instructions or to report with or without amendments. So that being said, I have Des Moines Rutledge, who would like to speak in opposition, Gary Reed with the Louisiana School Boards Association, who would like to speak in opposition, if y'all would come to the table.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I think Representative Williams makes a valid point, and I think the question that Representative Hunter asked ought to be asked in the reverse. If the enabling or local legislation of 563 that Senator White referenced passes and 299 does not pass, what's the effect of it? The effect of it is not created. I think it can be aptly regarded as a distinction without a difference, Representative Seabaugh. And I think if you're going to give voters an informed, put them in a position to make an informed decision, the decision that they're going to make at the ballot is essentially going to be whether or not you create and fund this school system, whether or not you create and fund this school system. whether or not you create and fund this school system. Thank you.
Thank you.
And of course, I could add a whole lot, but in respect to the chairman's admonition, I will confine my remarks
I
to that.
appreciate this. This bill already went through the substantive House committee, and our job is just to comply with our House Rule 6.1.
Well, that's quite debatable, Mr. Chairman, but I would do.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Gary Reed, representing the Louisiana School Board Association, and we come to the table strongly opposing the bill. And just to take off on what Mr. Russell had said, the constitutional amendment 299 will fund the system. You have to have the constitutional amendment for the MFP funding. So if you don't have the funding, you don't have the system. So not to go into the details of the bill, but we strongly oppose the bill.
Thank you. Representative Seabaugh, you have a question?
Yeah, question, either one of y'all can answer this. Have you looked at the bill and what this bill is actually amending? Have you looked at it?
Yeah, definitely.
What's it amending?
What's amending the Constitution involving the MFP?
Funding, right?
Right.
It's amending the section on funding.
Exactly.
It's not amending any section on creation or whether the district exists.
No.
So
if you don't have the funding, you don't have a bill. So you have a system.
So wouldn't you agree that a constitutional amendment that is amending a section on funding should reference funding, not creation?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Seabaugh. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
I have some other cards in opposition, but no one has checked that they would like to speak. Adam Knapp, Baton Rouge Area Chamber, Cheryl Lott, East Baton Rouge Parish, Laura Fernandez, parent, Representative Regina Barrow, Barbara Freiberg, and Tarvald Smith. All in opposition, do not wish to speak. At this time, we'll take up Representative Williams' amendment. You got that one, Robert? Robert, if you want to read it for the committee.
Members, this is not in your folder. I'll have to read this in. On page 2, line 15, the phrase grant the will be changed to create a new. And then on line 16, after parish and before the same, we'll insert granting it. So the sentence will read, do you support an amendment to create a new Southeast Baton Rouge Community School System in East Baton Rouge Parish, granting it the same authority granted parishes for purposes of, etc.
Members, any questions or comments?
Can I speak to it?
Yes, go ahead, Senator White.
Mr. Chairman and members, it's very plain. I'll read the constitutional amendment. It says, constitutional amendment to grant the Southeast Baton Rouge Community School System in East Baton Rouge Parish the same authority granted parish relative to MFP funding and raising revenues for their schools. That's what the constitutional amendment, that's the title, okay? 563, local bill, advertised properly. Creates and provides for the Southeast Baton Rouge Community School Board and School System in East Baton Rouge Parish. This creates it. This just simply allows it to be funded.
Representative Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, I offer the amendment because I think ballot lane is very important to voters. And voters are going to be looking at this ballot language. This is what we're putting out to the people. And they're going to make this assumption that based upon what Senator White has offered is that all we have to do is yes, no to fund this. When they have not had any discussion, the voters have not had any discussion as to whether or not the creation of this school district is something that they want. The legislature, yes, we have the authority to do that. But all I'm asking is to allow the voters to also have that authority. Let them also vote on that issue. Don't just let the 104, the members of the House and the Senate to do that. And that's all I ask, is to give the voters an opportunity to vote on a constitutional amendment that will grant the creation and the funding. I think the voters should be given that opportunity.
Thank you, Representative Williams. Representative Arnold?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative White, would you be opposed to an amendment on your other bill that would tie it to the election?
It's no good. The local bill's no good. If you pass it, you have no funding.
Well, legally you create it, but you have no funding, so you can't do anything with it.
Dead.
Right. So would you be opposed to language on that bill of, say, a floor amendment that would say, subject to the passage of the...
I think it probably has that language. Well,
Okay.
I'll go through it, but I don't,
Well, I mean,
I don't object that. But I mean, that's a given.
Right, but if that's the case, then I agree with you, and I would object to this amendment,
Yeah.
because this
Yeah,
amendment
I
deals
don't-
with the
yeah.
constitutionality of funding, not with the constitutionality
Right.
of creation.
If this bill passes, you're right. You can throw this one away because there's no funding for it. So anyway, I would agree to that amendment.
So it's already in the bill, I'm being told. So,
Yeah.
all right, with that proper time, I object to the amendment.
Representative Hunter, you have a question on this amendment?
Yes.
Okay, we're on this amendment. Go ahead.
What is, I guess my question is, what is the issue with the actual wording, creating versus granting? Would you like a softer word, like allowing or giving, in difference to grant? Because if it read, do you support an amendment allowing the Southeast Baton Rouge, or giving, I think it would be more palatable to the actual voter.
I think that's the language that they've started using on constitutional amendments. I mean, you're the civil law committee, but it's support and oppose. It's not yes or no. I mean, isn't that what it reads on the machine? Support and oppose?
I mean, yeah, ultimately the answer is yes or no, yay or nay, or for or against, but
I mean, I think it's just making it plain. Do you support this, or or you don't?
I understand that, but I think the average everyday voter may want something a little more layperson.
I don't mean to argue with you, Representative Hunter, at all, but I think most people understand that support means yes and against means no.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Hunter. We're going to take up now the amendment proposed by Representative Williams. Is everybody clear on the amendment? All right. Representative Arnold objects to the amendment. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Representative Seabaugh?
No.
No. Representative Arnold? No. Representative Edwards? No. Representative Garofalo? No. Representative Hunter? Yes. Representative Huval? No. Representative Jefferson? Yes. Representative Landry? No. Representative Miller? No. Representative Shakespeare? No. Representative Williams? Yes.
And that amendment fails to pass. Representative Arnold, did you have an amendment, or you were just making a comment? No. Okay. All right.
I thought it was in the bill.
At this time, Senator White, you have an opportunity to close.
Members, I know it's not an easy decision, and I know there's some opposition to this bill, but I didn't write the language. The attorneys wrote it, and they write them for all our bills, and I know you oversee it, but I think support or oppose is, people understand that.
Gotcha. Thank you, Senator White. Committee, time for a motion. Representative Seabaugh moves that we report Senate Bill 299, to which Representative Williams objects.
You object to the language or to the bill?
Wait, Representative Williams, our instruction under the House rule is to report with or without amendments. Are you objecting that we report without amendments? Okay, the motion made is by Representative Seabaugh to report without amendments, to which Representative Williams objects. Madam Secretary, would you call the roll?
Representative Seabaugh?
Yes.
Yes. Representative Arnold?
Yes.
Yes. Representative Edwards?
Yes.
Yes. Representative Garofalo?
Yes.
Yes. Representative Hunter? Yes. Representative Huval?
Yes.
Yes. Representative Jefferson?
Yes.
Yes. Representative Landry?
Yes.
Yes. Representative Miller?
Yes.
Yes. Representative Shake Snyder?
Yes.
Yes. Representative Williams? No.
And that motion passes, so Senate Bill 299 will be reported without amendments. I'd also like to make the motion that we adopt our Rule 6.8A report that goes along with Senate Bill 299. Is there any objection? Hearing none, that report will be adopted. Thank you, Senator White.
Thank y'all for your time.
Mr. Speaker, Representative Ponte moves in this order of business call from the calendar from the notice to be called list, Senate Bill 299 by Senator White, joint resolution amending Article 8 of the Constitution, provide certain effects and purposes of Southeast Baton Rouge Community School System.
Without objection. Representative Ponte.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this is the constitutional amendment of the Southeast School Breakout District allowing the voters, not only in the parish but the entire state, to decide whether or not this district will exist or not. This is allowing the people of Louisiana to have a voice and to have a vote, and that's all I'm asking for. And that's all this bill does.
Representative Barrow for a question. Representative Barrow waves. All right, there are no questions. Representative James to the floor on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, here we are again. I know that this issue has been fully talked about, and I wanted to address you again and ask you to join me in rejecting this bill. Members, you've heard a lot from both sides, and I'll be the first to admit that there are a lot of uncertainties with this bill. We don't know what the racial makeup will be. We don't know what the legacy costs will be, but we know there will be costs. We don't know how many teachers will stay, how many teachers will leave. But we do know two definite things with this bill. Number one, this bill eliminates choice for a lot of parents in Baton Rouge. We pass bills to allow parents the choice. You heard from several parents, many of them are here today. Choice, they're being denied choice with this bill. Number two, this bill, and the author has said it many times, will create a school district that is in higher rates of poverty. And we know that a school district that has higher rates of poverty, they have very few chances to succeed. So members, I'm going to ask you to join me in pressing that little red button. And I know it's a tough vote. I know when there are local bills, we look for all of the members of certain delegations to come down and join hands and all agree about a bill. And I know it's a tough vote, members. I know many of you have been beat over the head with this bill. You've been pulled on both sides, and I'm glad that we finally get a chance to vote up or down. Please join me in voting no on this bill.
Representative Katrina Jackson, do you have a question for Representative James?
Just one question, if he would take it. Representative James, I know this is a local issue, but I am concerned when I see bills separating school systems when there's a cost involved. So my question to you is this. With the amendments that have been made to this bill, does East Baton Rouge still incur some costs?
Most definitely. Like I said in my statements, we don't know what those costs will be, but we know there will be costs. If there was an absence of a worry about costs, we would not have seen those amendments. I think that it was a noble try, but just not good enough to pull our district up out of the devastation that this bill would do to the East Baton Rouge Parish School District.
Okay, and I'm trying to remember all of that amendment. I know you guys still have some costs on the buildings of the schools that will be taken out of this.
Definitely.
That amendment didn't cure that cost.
It didn't at all. Not with the legacy costs as well. Like I said, we know what those costs will be. We're still paying legacy costs with the three previous school systems that broke away, and it's another cost that I'm not willing to see my school district face at this time.
So in these tough economic times, you would incur a new cost for schools you no longer had control over, for buildings you no longer owned.
You're absolutely correct, Representative Jackson.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, there are no other questions. Representative Smith to the floor on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I come in opposition to this bill, and as you've already heard, there's been lots of conversation about the bill. But you know, members, this has been a very difficult journey getting to this point, because many of you have been pressured unduly to change your mind if you voted no, or to vote for this if you were absent. The pressure has been from contacting your family members who've called members in your district or other districts to meet with various groups whose children or grandchildren live in the area. This is a local bill. Some have even had threats against the bills on the Senate side. We've only presented you with the information as we have it, the absolute truth of what this bill will do to the East Baton Rouge Parish school system. If you vote in favor of this constitutional amendment, it will be on your backs as a legislature of creating another low-poverty school district in the state of Louisiana that need not be created. I gave you the statistics the other day when we talked about 563 about the dollars that are being lost by pulling out an unincorporated area in taxes. What the sales tax would be lost for 5.5 years left on the sales tax propositions of $64 million. I would just like to know, how would you feel, again, if you indeed lost that in your school district? We can't say enough about the fact that this is not right. It's the first time in 40 years that this legislature is even looking at an unincorporated area becoming a school district. Now, while they talk about the constitutional not addressing it, but there are other constitutional issues that will be addressed. If you pass this bill, just think about it. You pay for RSD, you pay for it outside of MFP, but you're not going to pay for this district outside of MFP. You're going to allow that school district to just go down the drain because it will not have the resources as RSD has to deal with the low poverty students. I ask you to vote against this amendment.
Representative Barrow to the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. Members, I do rise in opposition to Senate Bill 299, and I'm not going to belabor the issue because we have definitely spent a lot of time on this. Certainly there was a lot of information that was given out last week as it relates to the companion legislation that this legislation has to pass in order for it to be placed on the ballot. But I do want to bring up a couple of points that were not answered, I believe, last time. And certainly, you know, I can appreciate Senator White for trying to please some of his constituents, but there's a vast number of his constituents who are against this measure because they believe that it actually takes away from their district. But let's talk about some of the numbers. Last week I asked Representative Ponte how many schools were in the system, and at the time he did not know. So I want to let you guys know there are 85 schools in the system. The pullout, this proposed measure is only for 10 schools. That's a little bit more than 10%. I am concerned about all of the children of East Baton Rouge Parish. I want to make sure that all of the children have the same opportunity. Just today, members, in Health and Welfare Committee, we got some real startling numbers that really bothers me, and I hope they bother you as well. The report came back saying in 1 year, poverty for children has almost doubled. A year ago, it was 19%, now it's 30.5% of children living in poverty. I believe that this creates a larger barrier and will definitely create even more pockets of poverty
in this parish. I want what is best for our children. I want all of the children to have the same opportunity. And I believe that's what we are really striving for here. So I say, let's not put this into place. We've already passed laws that we don't even know what the consequences of them or what they are going to be. And I have to tell you that there is a proposed plan right now on the table that's being discussed to look at smaller school districts. I believe Representative Williams referred to that last week. So I believe that this is definitely premature. I believe that if we just wait, what they are attempting to accomplish, they may actually end up getting in the end. But it won't be at the cost or the expense of 80% of our children who will be left in the system. So I ask you members, please join me in voting down this bill. Because what happens in Baton Rouge affects all of Louisiana. We can't just fix part of the problem. We need to fix the entire problem. So I ask you to join me in voting this bill down. Thank you very much.
Representative Richardson to the floor on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in support of this bill, and they're right. It is affecting East Baton Rouge Parish, and I want to tell you this when I start, and I'm going to tell you this when it ends. All it does is simply allow people an opportunity to vote. And when you start stopping people an opportunity to vote, well, then you're going against the very foundation of our country. And just to give you something, where the school district is the southern end of my district and takes in a part of my district. But you look up to the north, and you have Central, you have Zachary that have broken away, and you have Baker that has broken away. And if Baker wouldn't have been tied up so long in court, I firmly believe that they would be in the top rankings of the state. But Central is a very young school district, and already is tied for number 2 in the state as far as ranking. So you can see the benefits of a community school district. And East Baton Rouge Parish School, I'm not putting down on any, but we never could get our educational system working with such a large system. And that's why you find that so many people wanting to break away and form the community school district. I really wish that the governor would have looked at this as part of his package as far as improving education, because the facts are there. Education has improved whenever they broke away to the school district. But you're right. They brought up that it has been a lot of information brought forth, and it's very confusing to the people that might not live in the area. But what the bottom line is, what this constitutional amendment would do would just simply allow the people to vote. And if the people vote that they're favorable of it, well, that's well and good. If they reject it, well, then we own another plan. But we're going to improve education. I can tell you that it's a firm commitment to, can you hear me? To improve the educational system. So as I come before you today, I say again that your support on this would be much appreciated, and whether people are for it or against it, and it's will be hashed out a good bit before the vote comes. I just ask that you support this and let it go to the people for a vote. And I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Richardson, you have some questions. Would you like to take some questions? He waves. Representative Brown to the floor on the bill. He waves. Representative Green. He waves. Representative Tebow to the floor on the bill. Representative, he waves. All right. Representative Ponte, there are no more questions. You have a right to close on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I'm going to be brief. We have discussed this issue. The bill concerning the money passed out of here and was concurred in the Senate yesterday. We heard this was premature. 8 schools belong to the RSD in the Baton Rouge Parish right now. 20 to 25 are fixing to be taken over and put into what the state is going to call an achievement zone. The people didn't have a voice in that. It's time. And it's not the achievement zone is not part of a municipality. It is within the parish. 20 to 25 schools. These are 6,400 students. 4,000 of them are on some assisted lunch program. You hear about poverty. How do you break poverty? Education. This is a portion of our parish that is trying to turn things around and focus on a smaller student population for success. This is not precedent. It's been done. It's been successful. Bottom line, this is allowing the voters of the state of Louisiana and the voters of East Baton Rouge Parish to have their voices heard. We're here all the time. We passed 3 bills, Senate Bill 351, Senate Bill 361, required a vote of the people. We passed out House Bill 1212 on the Crescent City Connection, overwhelmingly to allow the voters to have a voice. We're asking to allow the voters to have a voice. We fight wars and we protect our country and other countries to allow freedoms, to allow people to exercise their right to vote. That's what this bill does. That's what we're asking for. I please ask for your favorable passage and vote yes.
All right, Representative Ponte, we have a question on closing. He waves. Representative Norton, why do you rise? All right, Representative Norton has requested a lockout. Will 20 members join Representative Norton in that request? Lockout has been requested. Representative Barrow? All right, a lockout is obvious. Members, vote your machines. Quorum call, members. Quorum call. Vote your machines. Representative Barrow, Representative Hinchkins, Henry, Arnold. Members, vote your machines. Representative Tebow. Representative Schroeder. Representative Brissett. Representative Theory. Representative Henry. Representative Schroeder. He just waved his hand. He's in that other room. All right. Are you through voting? The clerk will close the machine. 100 yeas and 0 nays in quorum. Representative Ponte moves the final passage of the bills. Many in favor of final passage will vote yes. Those opposed vote no, and clerk will close the machine. Members, vote your machines. Representative Barrow, no. Representative Tebow, yes. Members, vote your machines. Vote your machines. Representative St. Germain, no. Vote your machines. Representative Brissett, no. The clerk will close the machine. Does the gentleman desire to give notice of reconsideration? And he does. Before, it was 66 yeas and 34 nays. Next bill.
And Representative Ponte, Mr. Speaker, at this time would move to call from the calendar Senate Bill 299 by Senator White. That bill is a joint resolution proposing to amend Article 8 of the Constitution, provide for certain effects and purposes the Southeast Baton Rouge Community School System in Louisiana.
Representative Ponte.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, we're back again. 299 by Senator White. This is the bill that we have that are going to allow the people to vote on the Southeast Baton Rouge School District. A few minutes ago, we just passed out unanimously the right for people to decide how money is going to be spent on tourism and parks and things. It's important that the people vote on that, but where do our children stand? Where does the future of our education stand? That was Senate Bill 562. Last year, East Baton Rouge system ranked 47th, and we're 50th today. We are leaving our children behind. That is my opening, Mr. Speaker, and I'll be happy to take any questions.
All right, there are no questions. To the floor on the bill, Representative Smith, Pat Smith.
Members, I'm not going to take much time, but I want to make a clarification on something. For 2 attempts at this bill, Representative Ponte has come to you with information that is erroneous. And I want to clarify that erroneous because I thought he was going to do it himself and give you the real facts about something. He stated twice that RSD was taking over 20 to 25 schools in East Baton Rouge Parish and creating an achievement zone. That is not true. The RSD is creating an achievement zone with their own schools that have been a complete failure in East Baton Rouge. A complete failure. Not one of those schools has succeeded. They are opening that achievement zone up for any other charter school to become involved if they choose to. I don't ever want you to vote on something because you think that there is something going on that is not true. RSD is not taking over 20 to 25 schools in East Baton Rouge Parish. They are taking over one school, one, Estruma High School. And they are including that school in their achievement zone, along with the other failed schools that they have failed for years, ever since they've had them. So I'm asking you again to not support this, especially if you changed your mind in any way based on that statement made by Representative Ponte. This is still not a good bill. Thank you.
Representative James to the floor on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I know you're ready to have a vote on this bill just as much as I am, but I just wanted to make two quick comments. Chairman Carter, he gave a very passionate talk here about hope that is gone and about the choice that is gone. This bill, Mr. Carter, will remove that choice for several parents who are in the balcony today. Several parents who have been here for 5-6 days with their children during their summer vacation because this bill will deny them choice. Mr. Ponte, my good friend, my friend before I made it here to the House, we had several amendments, and I believe Mr. Jones offered an amendment during our debate on school choice to ask the voters to decide whether they wanted vouchers. Mr. Ponte voted no on that amendment, but today he wants to talk about we need to send this to the people. He didn't want to send it to the people then because he didn't think it was a good idea. Members, this is not a good idea, and I urge you to vote no. Thank you.
Representative Green to the floor on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I'll be pretty short. I'm not going to talk about facts about any school district, but I'll tell you these facts. I've lived in this district for 28 years. I'm the only legislator, House or Senate, that lives in this district. This is important to my constituents. It's important to me. I put my kids in private school. For 2 kids in private school, it costs about the cost of a brand new Toyota Camry every year. I have that luxury right now. There are plenty of parents in my district that don't have that opportunity. This allows the people in the entire state of Louisiana to vote for this or against this. It allows the parish of East Baton Rouge to decide to vote for it or against it. The bill is already passed. I urge you to vote for this bill to allow the entire state to decide the future of the children in the southeast Baton Rouge area. Thank you.
All right. There are no more questions. Representative Carter to close on the bill. Ponte.
You're right, member. Most of us have our mind made up. And Ms. Smith came to clarify the 24 schools. There's 5 right now: Estruma High, Capitol High, Glen Oaks Middle, Dalton Elementary, Lanier Elementary. 3 different zip codes, 10,000 kids, a district within a district. It's not a municipality. Nobody got a voice in that, except the institution that failed to move our kids forward and to help the kids of this city. In 5 years, this school system has seen 3 superintendents. Where's the change? We need more time. We need more money. They have $55 million in the bank. This Southeast District breaks out. They pick up $5.1 million. Legacy costs. All the legacy costs are passed on, so the pressure that the existing system feels due to legacy costs will be relieved and moved into this new system. They will have more money to educate fewer children. Of the 10 schools in Southeast Baton Rouge District, 5 of them are within 6 points of being taken over. This is a very sound geographical bound area. It's about race, I said. Really? 56.48 African American, 38.24. Help me with that one. We go from 47th to 50, but we're making changes and improvement. Help me with that one. This is an area that is very diverse, that are about our children and our future. We talk about crime and incarceration. We talk about just yesterday, if not the day before, that we've doubled in poverty over the past year. How scary is that? But the solution that everybody agrees on is education is the key. And this is about education. And it's about education for Southeast Baton Rouge. And it's about allowing the people to have a vote and a voice for the children, because those children, no matter what political party you are on the future of this city and this state and this country. And I ask you to move favorable passage. Representative Barrow, why don't you rise? Lockout. Representative Barrow has requested a lockout. Will 20 members join in that request? A lockout is obvious, members. Quorum call. Quorum call, members. Vote your machines. Quorum call. Representative Arnold. Representative Harrison. Representative Brissett, I see you back there. Members, vote your machines. Members, vote your machines. Quorum call, members. All right. The clerk will close the machine. 94 members present and a quorum. All right. Representative Ponte moves the final passage of the bills. Many in favor of final passage vote yes. Those opposed vote no. And clerk open machine. Members, vote your machines. Vote your machines. Are you through voting? Members, are you through voting? Brissett, no. Representative Burford? Representative Arnold, no. All right, clerk will close the machine. 59. Yes or no? 60 yeas and 35 nays, and that bill has failed to pass. All right. Representative Lapinto is a yes. It'll make it 61-35. Next bill.
Mr. Speaker, Representative Pearson moves that we call from the calendar Senate Bill 50 that was returned moments ago. That bill amends relative to sheriff's pension relief, provide relative to permanent benefit increases.
Representative Pearson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Hello? Am I on? No, I'm not. Am I on? Huh? Hello? Oh, members, thank you. Members, if I can have your attention, Senate Bill 50 is a bill that was brought to us by the Sheriff's Pension and Relief Fund. Again, this was brought and approved by the board of the Sheriff's Pension and Relief Fund. What they're asking for is a mechanism to provide the board with the authority to grant cost of living raises from a funding deposit account, and the current law authorizes the Board of Trustees to award cost of living adjustments to retirees and beneficiaries. This does give them the authority to grant that. I'll be glad to take any questions.
All right, Representative Jones for a question.
Turn the mic on. There it is. Representative Pearson, this bill is actually from a retirement system that the sheriffs run, that they're actually trying to do something nice for their employees, right?
They are, I think,
What a
many
refreshing,
systems.
what a refreshing bill to finally have one that does something nice for the employees, wouldn't you say?